As to reasons behind the Democrats' stunning victory in Tuesday's election, what Mr. Bush himself has called a thumping. Let's call in Ariana Huffington, political gadfly, editor of the blog The Huffington Post. Good to talk to you, Ariana. Thanks for your time tonight.
Good to talk to you, Keith.
There has been a lot of talk since Tuesday about the election having been won. The Republicans have said this a lot because the Democrats were able to stake out the political center. The purple state argument you have written, that's complete nonsense. Can you summarize why?
Because, Keith, there were three reasons why Democrats won, and they are Iraq, Iraq, and Iraq. And that's not a matter of opinion, it's a matter of fact. Just look at races everywhere. Just look at Pennsylvania, where you had Lois Murphy, who was considered to be a shoo-in. She ran a by-the-book centrist campaign, and she lost. She did not even mention Iraq on her website, where she mentions all the issues that she's running on. Then you had Patrick Murphy, a war veteran, who was considered a long shot, and he ran on Iraq unequivocally against the war, and he won. And that is across the country, in New Hampshire, in Kentucky, in red states and blue states. Iraq was the big issue, and Jack Murtha is the hero who put it on the table for the Democrats.
Was it he who started this, or was it Russ Feingold being the lone guy who voted against the Patriot Act, or was it Murtha almost a year ago at the House floor, or was it Bill Clinton calling out Chris Wallace? Do you have a starting point for what happened on Tuesday?
Oh, yes. The starting point is clear. I mean, Russ Feingold was great, but the thing that made Murtha the starting point, when last November, almost a year ago, he basically said, I was wrong for voting for the war. The thing that made that so significant is that Jack Murtha was a hawk. Everybody knew that Jack Murtha had great contacts in the military everywhere, that he had been a friend of the military forever, that he was a veteran. When he spoke out against the war, when very soon after he called it a civil war, it was a very significant moment. And in fact, you may remember that many people in his own party, including Rahm Emanuel and Steny Hoyer, were aghast. Now, Rahm Emanuel told the New York Times yesterday that while he was absolutely filled with foreboding about this at the time, now he recognizes it as how significant it was for the victories that the Democrats are now enjoying.
So if it is, as you put it, Iraq, Iraq, and Iraq, it would seem the Democrats have a large obligation to deliver about Iraq, even if they don't have the power on their own to bring troops home sooner rather than later. They're going to need to fight hard and fight loudly, will they not?
Absolutely, but they have significant power, Keith. They have the power of the purse, and they have the power of investigations, and they should use both. And the first step, the first thing they should do is make sure that Jack Murtha is elected majority leader, the number 2 spot that he's vying for. You know, when Jack Murtha came out against the war almost a year ago, we got in touch with him from the Huffington Post and asked him to blog. And it's been really amazing to see him blogging 24 times. And every time he had something to say, he wouldn't just say it out there in the country. He would say it on a blog, which meant that everybody immediately had access to it. He understands modern communication. He is a real leader, and it's really moving to see how one man can make such an enormous difference as he did make.
What do you make, finally, of this Karl Rove interview with Mike Allen at Time, that he underestimated corruption, that it wasn't about Iraq? If it had been about Iraq, Ned Lamont would have won, and that the events of Tuesday are just transient?
This is Karl Rove once again being Karl Rove and trying to take this issue away, to take it off the table. He won't be able to succeed because what happened to Ned Lamont is in fact the exact opposite. Ned Lamont won the primary because of Iraq, and he lost because he did not fight hard enough on Iraq. Remember, after he won the primary, he decided to sound senatorial, to quote-unquote tone down the rhetoric, to speak about other issues, and he left a vacuum into which very cleverly stepped Joe Olbermann, who started talking like Jack Murtha. He really started going on about how we needed to not be as involved in Iraq, that yes, of course we need to bring our troops home. So he muddied the waters in terms of the message.
Ariana Huffington, founder and editor of HuffingtonPost.com. Great thanks as always for joining us. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.